In 1996, Ratonavir was a miracle drug for HIV. But 2 years later, production lines at Abbott Laboratories suddenly began failing quality tests. The drug capsules turned cloudy and refused to dissolve. Researchers found the capsules were full of millions of tiny needles. The underlying chemical formula was perfectly intact, but the molecules had folded into a completely new crystal structure. Because of this denser physical stacking, the drug could no longer dissolve in the human body. The medical intent of the compound was completely erased by its geometry. This is known in chemistry as a disappearing polymorph. Once the first seed of this new structure formed, it acted as a multiplicative cascade, instantly overriding the existing environment and forcing all future batches to fold into the useless state. The manufacturer spent millions trying to solve the problem by adding more procedural checks and opening alternative manufacturing sites. They failed. The physical environment had simply reached a more stable thermodynamic state. The Ratonavir crisis proves that the semantic intent of a system and its physical layout are the exact same thing. If the physical geometry drifts, the meaning of the system is permanently lost. We build modern computing systems under a dangerous assumption: the belief that software intent exists separately from hardware geometry. This is the dualist fallacy. Look at the distinct memory allocation blocks on this physical silicon wafer. Executing AI operations here is governed by the exact same rules as the chemical vat. Both are thermodynamic terrains. To secure these architectures, we have to recognize a strict unity principle. Semantic meaning equals physical layout equals hardware mechanics. When massive neural networks execute on silicon, unmonitored microscopic variations in thermal states and physical memory access patterns pull the substrate toward more stable configurations. The AI's functional role silently and structurally drifts. The industry spends billions hunting for text hallucinations. Those are additive semantic errors, and they are easily caught. Physical drift is a multiplicative cascade that operates entirely invisible to the software layer. Treating geometric drift as a software bug instead of a thermodynamic hardware shift leaves high-stakes enterprise systems completely blind to their own degradation. To secure high-risk AI, the industry currently relies on tools like RAG filters, vector databases, and pre-execution governance layers. But under the EU AI Act, specifically Article 14, high-risk systems require independent verification. Legally, independence means the verification mechanism must exist in a completely separate failure domain from the system it audits. This exposes a fatal structural flaw in current compliance tools. The verification software runs on the exact same Turing-complete compute substrate as the AI it attempts to govern. If a substrate-level anomaly occurs, it simultaneously corrupts both the underlying AI and the software tasked with verifying it. Stacking additional software checks does not fix the vulnerability. The anomaly simply travels up through the shared base layer, bypassing the secondary verifier entirely. Alan Turing proved this mathematically in 1936. Any software attempting to check software within the same computational class creates an infinite regress. Even immutability flags in cryptographic signatures fail to close this regress. The process that reads the signature still operates inside that vulnerable Turing-complete environment. Satisfying independent regulatory oversight is mathematically impossible using software tools that share the AI's computational class.
The only mathematically sound exit to the Turing regress is to force the verification instrument to operate outside the Turing-complete computational class entirely. To do this, we drop below the arithmetic logic unit, or ALU. We need an environment with zero executable surface for structural drift to occupy. The target location is the physical memory address fetch pathway. We embed a combinational logic gate directly into the memory subsystem's physical fetch path. This logic gate has strict architectural limits. It explicitly lacks a program counter, loops, or any state mutation mechanisms. By embedding the logic here, we collapse the verification process and the data retrieval process into a single, indivisible physical event. A hardware system with 0 degrees of freedom represents the required thermodynamic bottom. It permanently anchors the AI's identity mapping against physical drift. The specific operation utilized in the fetch path is an XOR combinational gate, tasked with comparing two physical memory addresses.
The first input required by the XOR gate is the literal requested address of the data being fetched by the AI. The second input is the role-encoded expected address. This is calculated strictly from the data's authorized hierarchical position. The physical output of the gate is an instantaneous single 1-bit signal, representing either a match or a no match. A mismatch at this gate quantifies functional role displacement. It directly measures if the data has physically moved from its authorized geometric position. This mechanism does not evaluate content, ethics, or logic. It acts solely as a pre-moral thermometer for physical spatial drift. Physics itself enforces the check at this layer. This terminates the infinite verification regress, because the verdict relies on an unavoidable physical event, not a software loop. All current software logs, behavioral scoring, and software signatures fall into a verification class known as detached records. Detached records have a fatal vulnerability. The temporal and physical gap between the event occurring and the record being written allows the causal history to be silently edited by drift. This brings us to a newly defined architectural class, autocoincidence. Look at the real-time failure response of the two paradigms. While a drift anomaly can quietly corrupt a detached log file, an autocoincident architecture instantly fails closed before the event can even complete. Under autocoincidence, the physical state of the machine carries its own causal history as an unalterable structural property. The record is the event. Encrypting data protects it from an outside observer. Substrate verification protects the system from itself. Enterprise AI deployers and compliance frameworks must transition away from evaluating detached records and mandate autocoincident measurements to satisfy regulatory oversight. Imagine driving your car onto a patch of black ice. Your software dashboard reports a perfect 60 miles per hour, but your physical tires are spinning in place at 0. The current billion-dollar AI safety industry is like a team of engineers frantically staring at a broken semantic speedometer, trying to predict a crash from text outputs alone. To gain operational traction, we have to abandon the dashboard and attach sensors directly to the physical driveshaft to measure exact hardware execution. Extracting this binary hardware telemetry strips away the paralysis of philosophical AI alignment debates, reducing compliance to standard enterprise risk metrics. True enterprise AI safety is achieved when semantic intent is irrevocably locked into physical geometry, halting the verification check with the absolute authority of physical reality.